Y'all have the book. You don't have the new book, right? Because it's not finished. This is the old book. So this particular lecture tries to follow along with your book. I entertain questions anytime you have them, but if it's something I'm going to cover, I may say, can we hold off on that? Or if it's something that may take me a little bit of a while to explain, because we've got to cover every fruit that's out there. I'm going to try to in this lecture. So let's get started. I'll take each fruit individually as we go through. That'll help you to understand. Try to be open to differences. If you talk to 10 different horticulturists in raising fruits, you're going to get 10 different answers. Okay? A lot of the things that are done in fruit production in the home are very similar or the same as if you're doing them commercially, especially with blueberries. Now, strawberries is quite different. We're going to look at matted rose strawberries. We'll look at grapes in a different regard as well. If you're doing wine grapes, you're going to be growing them a little bit different if you're growing for a winery than if you're growing them for home. One thing that I want you to say right up front is, just because it's spring doesn't mean you need to fertilize with a bunch of chemical fertilizer out there. With fruits, sometimes it's more detrimental to fertilize. You'll be pruning yourself absolutely to death with extra growth. You want to put fruit down there. So with every one of these fruits, we'll talk about fertilization just a little bit. But as a master gardener, everybody in here is in the master gardener program, correct? You need to understand that soil testing is not just a joke. It's very, very important to let us know what's in the soil that's in there. So small fruits is what we're going to talk about first. They're probably the most suited to the garden for the homeowner. The small fruits will produce a crop for you a lot earlier than a tree fruit. Particularly nowadays, the tree fruits with the new rootstocks we have out there, we can get fruit in 2 to 3 years, sometimes even in the second year if we're growing them intensively, like we do in a lot of the areas of the Northwest. I consulted in the Northwest, so if y'all have other fruits that are out there, I consulted in the Northwest as a fruit specialist for about 5 years in Oregon. And if you've ever been to Oregon, it is absolutely the mecca of small fruits. Every variety of blackberry you've ever thought about growing, or dewberries, everything in that region out there. I was the organic kook out there. So anyway, they require a lot less room, so they're very conducive to growing at home. They suffer from a lot less insects. We do have a powerful insect that's a problem for the entire region. Luckily, the media hasn't grabbed a hold of it and destroyed the fruit industry. But we have an insect called the spotted-winged Drosophila. And it is a fruit fly that attacks ripe fruit. And now I forgot the name of the organic spray for it. I'll remember it before the day's over, hopefully. But the best spray sometimes for a lot of these problems are the organic sprays. And this is one of those that I would rather have the organic spray than anything synthetic, because it does a lot better job. But if you're not spraying, you're probably eating fruit maggots. And that's why I'm glad the industry hasn't tapped into that. They're here. They will attack a raspberry first, a blackberry, and then the blueberries. It kind of goes in that regard. And it's very easy to trap and look at those. We'll get into a little more detail in a few minutes on the Drosophila if you want to. But don't make a whole lot of big difference. Last year I got close to 15, 20 calls for people that had done a freezer jam, and they thawed out their freezer jam, and they had white maggots on the top of their freezer jam. That's the Drosophila, larvae. Little bitty tiny white maggots. So I only do cooked jam now, so I have extra protein in mine in there. But they add beauty to the landscape. You as a master gardener, and we'll try to approach it to where you're going to get some of the normal questions you're going to get if you're working on the phone lines. One of those is people get mad on a hornet because they can't grow gooseberries and currants. And particularly Haywood County West, let me go on to the next slide. It's against the law to raise currants and gooseberries in this state. If someone tattles on you, the NCDA can come in and they will destroy your currants and gooseberries. And these are the laws. There's the in there. But you can't knowingly and willingly. You can be fined for growing these in your home garden, because it is an alternate host of the white pine blister rust. I think I got a picture of it up here. And so the more we grow with those, there's even been in my early years, there were teams going out and killing gooseberries and currants that were native out in the areas, because this is an important timber tree to the area. It used to be that you could grow currants east of off the mountain, off Black Mountain, but now the whole state, you can't grow them anywhere in the whole state, because what happens is people were shipping them to the Piedmont and picking them up and driving them back to the mountains. So in the last 10 years, nowhere in North Carolina can these be shipped. So if you order them, they will not ship them into this state, because they'll lose their license to sell in the state. So it is an important, you can see the issue here gets into the phloem and will kill the white pine on a large scale. We've had the problem with hemlocks and the adelgid. This is the same type of disease. It can decimate the white pine population, which is a riparian tree for our forest. So that they're trying to protect that in the area there. Okay. Most fruit, small fruit, bear at different ages. You can see here, this is a chart that I can't think it's in your book, 12-12-1. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Black raspberries are probably going to do real well for you in this area when we get into the raspberries. Blackberries seem to work real well. They're stiffer. You don't even have to use a wire trellis for your, your black raspberries. Your colored raspberries, we have a hard time with those, but we'll go over some of those in the area. We'll go over the different strawberries as well. Let's take strawberries first, because this is probably the most popular. Here's the areas I'm going to talk about. Talk a little bit about how they were introduced to us, all the way down to renovating. I'm going to take the approach of a matted row system. That is the most recommended system for homeowner production, or for like a tailgate market production, because most people are doing plasticulture. Plasticulture is using strawberries and growing them on an annual basis. We don't recommend that anymore. I've got growers in Haywood County now that are doing 2 years on plastic. We can still do pretty good with the plastic in there, but a matted row system, you can get 5 to 7 years out of a planting instead of a 1 to 2 year in there. Okay, start off with an introduction. It's the first commercial fruit in our region to be ripened in our area. It's very productive. 25 plants means about 25 quarts of berries. That means that you're going to have to let the runners grow. It's not 25 plants, it's 25 plants and the runners that they put in to make that quart per plant in there. It's very nutritious. It's low in salts. It's really high in vitamin C, and it can be grown anywhere in North Carolina at all elevations. In there, there's a variety that'll grow everywhere. So it's one of those that we can grow anywhere in the area. The original strawberry was a Frigeria ananaeus, and it was bred to the June-bearing strawberries. A lot of us have wild strawberries that we find and gather in our area here. In the United States of America, there are very few growers of native strawberries. They're tiny, they're very intense, but they're exclusively grown all over Europe, and they're high-end. So if you're getting wild strawberry jam, you're probably getting that from a European source. But they grow a lot of those because the flavor is twice as intense of a native strawberry than it is of something we grow on the open market in there. If you have strawberries in your yard, see this picture up here, and they're yellow. That is a poisonous strawberry. And you have to eat probably about a quart of them. I tried to prove that when I was a kid. It didn't kill me, but I had diarrhea really bad. So it is what it is, but that's called a false strawberry. We called them an Indian strawberry for years, and then that was an offensive term to our Native Americans, so we're now calling them false strawberries. But a strawberry seed on a true strawberry is indented. With a false strawberry, if you look here, you can see that it pokes as out. The seed is poked out. That's the difference in them. So if your children are out there gathering, they have to eat almost a gallon to get diarrhea. Trust me, I know. In there, and they don't even taste as good. The false strawberry doesn't. In there. The growth cycle, most of our June-bearing varieties are affected by temperature and daylight. We normally, in the home situation, plant strawberries in the spring. The commercial people do planting in the fall. But we do the spring planting. And then what we do is we'll have runners through the summer. So they're very shallow-rooted plants, so we need to make sure that we have enough water. The runners will form a matted row. What that is, you may plant them in a single row, a foot to 2 feet apart. Then you let the babies grow and it fills it in. And that's what we call a matted row. It mats into a place that you put it. You may be doing a strawberry pyramid or a square or something like that. You're trying to fill up that space with baby strawberries in there. What happens is the crown is formed that first year of growth, and once the crown is formed, then is the larger the crown, the more berries you have. So the next season, the crown will survive the winter, and it saves the nutrition, and the buds and the blooms are in the crown. That's what produces the strawberries the next spring. The first flush of blooms on the strawberry plant are the big berries. So a lot of times we'll get a freeze, or the first flush of them, so we lose those big berries. And then as the season goes on, the size of the strawberry goes down, primarily because of the nutrition in the crown is reduced and reduced. So, the plasticulture berries, we push fertilizer all the time and maintain the fertilizer to try to keep the amount of berries the same all the way through in there. Okay. The preferences for environment, full sun. You can grow some strawberries in semi-shade, but it's not recommended at all. You will not get very much production or predictable production on the strawberry plant. Any garden soil, you can grow strawberries. They're shallow-rooted. They grow okay in clay soil, so soil type is not a big problem. Soil preparation, I recommend a raised bed, especially in the Piedmont and western North Carolina, because we have tighter soils. If you're in a bottomland where you've got a lot of sand, but raising them up, we have a tendency to put things in flat rows now. We've gone to that over the years. But a raised bed is going to give you a lot more air for the roots. You'll have a lot less problems. You'll have a lot less diseases and insect problems. So doing that. Did you have a question? Okay. In there. So normally about a 6 to 8 inch, somewhere in there, raised up area is going to give you a lot better drainage for the shallow-rooted plant. Temperature is anything less than 30 degrees at the plant level will kill the blooms. This is really not true, but that's what's in your book. And that's what most horticulturists say. Strawberries today can handle right down to 26 to 27 degrees. And if you'll put a cover on there, like what row covers are, if any ladies or men that are seamstresses, the white stuff that goes in the collars, kind of a remade, that'll give you a 5 degrees. 5 to 7 degrees, just a thin one. So that's a way to protect the strawberries. We don't do a lot of water overhead sprinkling anymore. Question?
Should you do the domes over it?
You're talking about the domes that are with plastic. Now plastic, you can do that very well, but it's going to heat up at least 12 to 15 degrees. So you're going to be pushing the strawberries. That's called a low tunnel. So you'll get strawberries at least 2 to 3 weeks early if you put a plastic over top of that. A remay is going to allow the temperature and to go back and forth through. If you raise the temperature of a strawberry plant early, you'll have strawberries earlier. You can use that to protect, but you got to take it off. Remay or your row covers can be put on. Commercial growers are putting them on this week, and they'll leave them on until 10% bloom. Okay. Once you get bloom, you take them off. A lot of the growers will actually take off the remay during the day and put it back on, or the row covers of a night, to protect from the temperature, and then they can protect from insects and disease problems as well. Especially our organic growers. They're using a lot of those row covers, but it's a high labor when you're spreading out a whole acre of fabric over, and then you got to take it off every day and put it back every night. But it will protect from those early insects, especially the Drosophila. Inch of water a week. That's pretty much what the standard is. You got to learn your soil. It'll be close to inch and a half a week, especially in the dry times. But you've got to look at your own soil and see. That's just kind of an average that we go by in there. Always use healthy plants. You know, I won't mention a couple of companies that have given me a hard time. You know, people are calling them and ordering plants, and then they can't ship them into North Carolina. North Carolina is very strict. You have to have disease-free, certified plants to ship into North Carolina now. We've changed the law on that to protect you in getting like red steel and some of these bad strawberry diseases. A lot of our strawberries come out of Canada. To tell you the different kinds of berries, you know, the worst kind of berry, in my personal opinion, is an everbearer, which that's what everybody wants to buy. Because what they do is they do a little dab at a time. You know, you'll have a little bit of strawberries today, and a few more the next day, and a few more the next day, that kind of thing. That's what an everbearer is. You have a good spring crop and a good fall crop, but they're still influenced by day length. Your day neutral ones are great. You have a heavy crop in the fall and the spring, and they're consistent. If you'll protect them some in the summer, in the hot summer months, you can have strawberries all the way through. We're using everbearers. Probably a good variety would be Seascape. If you've heard of Seascape, when it starts with a G, I can't think of the name of it right now, but Seascape's doing real well for a low temperature if you're above 2,500 foot elevation. And you protect them like, what was your name? Is it Kathy? Like Kathy was saying, using a small hoop over a day neutral one. It doesn't care about the length of the day or the amount of sunlight they're going to produce. You can have strawberries through Christmas. We had 2 growers last year, one in Haywood and one in Henderson, that were picking strawberries at Christmas. You know, using the Seascape on that.
Seascape everbearing or day neutral?
It's day neutral. Okay. Everbearers are not recommended unless you're just going to. They're a good ground cover. That you know they do a good ground cover, but you're going to get a half a cup here and a half a cup there. You know, you'll have a peak in the spring and a peak in the fall. With a day neutral, it'll even itself out with a little bit of temperature variance in there. Gene bearers is the normal. Here we're going to get a crop in May. You use like an early glow, early bell, some of those types. They're a short day, and then when it gets down below 12 hours of sun, it goes into runner production. So as soon as about the middle of June, when the strawberries stop producing, all of a sudden the runners start coming out. So that's what indicates the time to do the runners in there. Choosing varieties. The most common variety commercially for us here is Sweet Charlie, Chandler, those kind of varieties. That's what we're used to getting on the market. But there are a lot of great varieties out there that you can buy from. Probably the best nursery right now for homeowners that you can get something from and get a multiple spectrum from in North Carolina is Lewis Farms. That's down in the Piedmont in there. Lewis, Lewis. So as a master gardener, somebody said, where can I get strawberry plants? Well, you can't. You used to could get them out of Henderson County. You could get them from a couple of growers here. But if you're trying to get varieties besides Chandler and Sweet Charlie, you're going to have to go to a local nursery. Yes?
The master gardener plant mill they're selling Albion and Jewel.
Albion's the other one I was thinking about, yeah. Albion. Albion's a really good day neutral. I did research on that last year in Mills River. 2 years ago. Did really, really well. It doesn't like the heat. So what's going to happen is it's going to slow down. It'll slow down in July, so you don't get a whole lot in that time period in there. Good one. Thank you. Yeah, Albion. But Seascape's a little more expensive anyway. Okay. It's down in near Pittsburgh, I think. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other ones out there. That's just a particular one that targets. It's been around for about 75 years. A decent nursery, you know. I mean, I'm not recommending one over another, but it's just going to be very difficult. If you were trying to find an override like Titan or Early Glow, you're not going to find it. You'll find it from them. They've concentrated on that because most everybody's going out of the business and just growing, but they're trying to keep some of those old heirloom varieties, those old sweet ones. Titan's that one that gets really, really